Hi girls, today we are going to be working on estimating mixed numbers. Our I can statement for today, I can estimate sums and differences using benchmark fractions. A benchmark fraction is going to be, or estimation, is going to be closest to a whole or to a half. So I want you to look at my board, and I'm thinking about 2 7/8, and I'm asking myself, is 2 7/8 closest to 2, closest to 2 1/2, or closest to 3? And you're going to notice I already have my half in there. And I'm asking, about where would 2 7/8 be? Well, if I were to break each of these into fourths, now I have eighths, 7/8 or 2 7/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8 is right there. So 2 7/8 is definitely closest to 3. Look at my next example, 1 1/5. So on my number line, you'll see I have 1 on one end, 2 on the other end, and I still have my half point there. Even though this is fifths and it's not even, because I'm thinking about a benchmark, I'm still putting that half there. But then I think about, where would 1 1/5 be? Well, if I were going to break this into fifths, one 1/5 would be about right here. Well, here's 1. There's that 1 1/2. There's 2. And 1 1/5 is definitely closest to 1 whole. Now I have the example 2 3/4. So I know that 2 3/4 is in between 2 and 3, and I've already put what my halfway point would be. Well, breaking it into fourths, well, I know when I break something even, it would be here, 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 and then I get 2 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 right here. Now, 2 3/4 is right in the middle of 2 1/2 and 3. So in estimating, we might not always have the same answer as somebody else, because I might say that 2 3/4 is closest to 3. My friend might say that 2 3/4 is closest to 2 1/2. And when we are estimating, different from rounding, it's okay if, in a case like this, when it's directly in the middle of 2 of my answers, that I can either say I estimate to 3, or I can say I am estimating to 2 1/2. Let's do a few more examples. Let's say I'm looking at 3 1/4. I'd be asking myself if it is close to 3, 3 1/2, or 4. And you'll notice I already have my half mark in between my 3 and my 4. I'm going to say, because it's 1/4, that 3 is closest to 3. Now I want to look at it on my number line. I'm going to take my number line in between 3 and 4 and break it into fourths, since my denominator is fourths. So I start in the middle, breaking it in half, and then breaking each half in half. So there I have my fourths. 3 1/4 is right here. So my answer makes sense. I said that 3 1/4 was closest to 3. Somebody else, though, might say that because it's right in the middle, that 3 1/4 is closest to 3 1/2. And that's okay. Let's look at the second one, 2 2/3. In between my 2 and my 3, I already have where the half would be, where 2 1/2 would be. But now I'm thinking of thirds. And 2 1/2 is right here. So here's one again where one person might say it's closest to 2 1/2. Another person might say it's closer to 3. My last example, 1 6/7. Well, I already know looking at this one, because it's 6/7, which I know is almost having the whole thing, that this is going to be closer to 2. No question about that. If I look at my number line, I have that 1 6/7 is somewhere in between 1 and 2. This would be the middle. 6/7 is going to be somewhere probably around here if I were going to try to break it into sevenths. So 1 6/7 is definitely closest to 2. Now that we have done some estimating of our mixed numbers and fractions, let's actually do that with finding sums and differences as well. So take a look at this example, 3 7/8 plus 1 1/5. I'm going to estimate my answer. So 3 7/8, I know that 7/8 is very close to having the whole thing. So 3 7/8 is going to estimate to 4 plus 1 1/5. Well, I know if I have 1/5, I don't have much of it. So estimating 1 1/5 to 1. And then this is the easy part. 4 plus 1 is 5. So my estimated answer for 3 7/8 plus 1 1/5 is about 5. My next one with subtraction, 3 4/10 minus 2 2/9, and I just want an estimated answer. 4/10. Well, I know that half of 10 is 5, so 4 is very close to 5. So I'm estimating this to 3 1/2. Minus 2 2/9. Well, 2/9, I don't have much of it at all. So I'm going to round or estimate, not rounding, estimate 2 2/9 to 2. Last thing I have to do is subtract. Okay? 3 minus 2 is 1, and I still have an extra 1/2. So my estimated answer for 3 4/10 minus 2 2/9 is 1 1/2. To continue your work, you are going to go to Zearn. It is a new program that you are using, but I think you're going to find it a lot of fun because it's going to give you a warm-up. Sometimes it'll give you sprints. So I think you're going to have a great time with it. And it's already set up for you that you're going to be working on lesson 29, which is called Estimation Station. I can't wait to get all of your great work, girls.